I am the big tank.
On the battlefield of life, nothing's harder than a tank. Yeah, have you ever met a man, hearts full of love, bigger than a tank?
Big tank.
He served in a few wars, he's a veteran that stands for a cause. For the best interviews and news, just keep it glued to the tank.
I am the tank, big
BigTank Talk.
Tank.
BigTank Talk.
My friends, welcome to another episode of BigTank Talk. Today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing to you, if you don't already know her, AussieKazz. Kaz, I appreciate you taking the time this morning to be with us on BigTank Talk.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Trust me, it's my honor. Let's start out with this. Tell us a little bit about you and how you came to be on Clapper.
Okay, so of course during COVID, everybody, was stuck at home, and my friend kept on sending me these like clips through Messenger on Facebook, and they were TikTok, and I could only watch the first couple of seconds of them, and if I couldn't, and the only way to watch the full video was to actually join TikTok. I hadn't joined TikTok. I'm old. I'm not interested in what the kids do, So I downloaded TikTok, and then because I'm a dirty old perv, I followed a thirst trap on TikTok, and he actually talked about a new app called Clapper, and I went, I wonder what that is. So I downloaded it, had a look, and fell in love with it, and just, and that's where I am today with Clapper. I joined Clapper March the 18th, 2021.
So you joined Clapper around the time I started this account. This is my second account on Clapper. My first one got banned.
Yeah.
For those that don't think that you can get banned on Clapper, it happens. But that's beside the point. So, first question, other than what we start with, and everyone that knows you are in Australia. Can you kind of give us a little peek into what life in Australia is like?
Again, it depends. Australia is very big. A lot of people don't realise actually how big and wide and vast Australia is, and we only have 27 or 28 million people in the whole lot of Australia. Australia's mainland is almost the same size as American mainland, so it's very sparsely populated. The east coast of Australia is where like 90-something% of Australians live, but I don't actually live on the coast. There's a huge we call it the Great Dividing Range, which is a mountain that runs all up the east coast of Australia. It's one of the longest continuous mountain range in the world, and so that is between myself and water. So I'm actually in a rural area of Australia. I live in a very small town called Wangaratta. It is not necessarily a very old town, but we've been here for over nearly 200 years. Australia, in retrospect, westernized countries, is very young. So we don't have, like hundreds and hundreds of years of history as we do, as say England or even America. Where our local Indigenous are Aboriginal or Kooris, Indigenous they're called now, and again First Nations is another word. My grandparents, one was Aboriginal, the other one was German. So we had we spoke broken Aboriginal in, you know, as growing up as kids. Only because we it's hard to explain. We have like our own lingo, our own language in the home that we grew up in. Life in Australia, wow. I grew up with parents that were seasonal workers, so that meant that they travelled down south of Australia during summer and then back up north to northern Australia for winter. And that was only to do, you know, the seasons that you know happened. So I got to see a lot of Australia. You know, I've travelled to nearly every state of Victoria, of Australia, I should say. So I've seen a lot. My husband and I, we like to travel a lot. I preferred to drive than fly. I just recently found out that I'm scared of heights. we just did a Clapper meetup just last month, and yeah, it's yeah. I just realised I just don't like heights. So yeah, living up in Australia, you know, it's I'm 53 years of age, so I've had a relatively easy life here in Australia. You know, the food's really good. The lifestyle's very good. It's very easygoing. We have a really easy attitude towards life. It's like, oh, she'll be right. You know, that's a common saying here in Australia. She'll be right, which means don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. We are a country that is fairly safe, as in the lifestyle is very safe. You know, growing up here, there wasn't a lot of violence. We haven't seen wars in Australia. As I've never seen war in Australia. My grandparents did, of course. You know, they saw World War II, but I haven't. The education system's really good here in Australia. You know, I think, you know, a lot of other countries send their children here to Australia for schooling. The money's good. You know, we're one of the only countries that are left in the westernised world that has actually surplus spending money. So Australia is a very big gambling country. We will gamble on anything, and that is without a word of lie. You can put a number on two frogs and chuck them in a ring, and people will throw money at it. There's such thing as cane toad racing in Queensland, and there's also cockroach racing in Queensland. I've seen guys throw the pickles out of the McDonald's onto a wall, and they bet on see which one, you know, lands to the ground. So, you know, yeah. What else can I say? The wildlife is very unique. One thing that I've noticed different between Australia and other countries since being on social media is because of Australia is an island, and it's not actually located near any other country as per se. We're a continent and an island in one. So we're able to control what comes in and what goes out of Australia, which I'm very proud of, which means that our wildlife, you know, has got a chance to remain wild rather than, you know, to be, you only see this animal in a zoo or that animal in a zoo. And you know, we're able to control diseases and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I mean, the only time that we've had any invasive species is if man brings it over themselves, you know.
Cookie says the only fault is too many Aussies there.
Well, funny you say that, because Cookie is actually originally from New Zealand, which is our you know, our neighbour just across the water. and a lot of New Zealanders come and live in Australia because why not? The medical side, is good. We have what we consider free healthcare here in Australia, and let me give you an example of that. Not last year, but the year before, I went in to have a full knee replacement, and I didn't pay anything, not 1 cent. I spent a week in hospital. I spent 6 months in rehab afterwards, and I'd seen specialists and doctors and everything, and not one cent come out of my pocket. So I'm very grateful for that. When people tell you that free healthcare doesn't work, it does. It just needs to be done properly. So, yeah. Anyway,
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah.
All right. The next question's been up for a bit. Ronan says, since Australia puts out some of the best opals in the world, do you have a favorite color and style of opal?
Oh, look, I love all opals. Opals, I've seen black opals, I've seen white opals, I've seen green opals and clear opals, and they're just some of the most beautiful in the world, honestly. Even our gold is a different color to other gold in the world, and I'm quite proud of that, actually. There's a town in Australia called Cooperpedy, which is relatively underground, and that's a huge opal mining place there.
Nice. So Jay Crum wants to know, do people still call people milkies out there? I'm not sure what that means, but he posted, I'm asking.
Okay, so the only word milky that I know from Jay Crum is what a white man would call a white Aboriginal. That's the only milky that I would know. So I'm not really sure. Do they still do it? I haven't heard it in a long, long time, and I'm telling you, a long, long, long time. So, that's unless there's another thing that what it means. So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I got to ask, because your videos are liable to be about anything. It's one thing I found going through your content, and I like it. I've never heard of the Angels.
Okay,
so
yep.
Can you educate me about your Australian rock group, the Angels?
Okay, so the Angels were a rock group, 70s and 80s, an Australian icon, I suppose, and they're famous for some music, but their most famous song is the one that we replicated here on Clapper. That's there's a lot of artists that have come out of Australia that have gone. Unfortunately, one thing I've noticed about Australians is that we love the underdog. We will always cheer for an underdog. So when you get someone that comes out and they're like all pompous and they're basically up their own arse, you'll see Australians go, "Oh, we don't like that," And so a lot of the bigger artists that have that arrogance about them they've had to go to other countries to find fame. Yeah. So, but I don't really know much more to tell you about the Angels, other than that they were a rock group. The lead singer died a few years back, and they've got another singer that sings with the rest of the band for now. But I mean, they're getting old. They're old blokes now, I mean, we all love the old music. It's great. But I think that there's a time where you just need to retire and just leave your old music where it is, Let us just enjoy that.
Somebody should tell the Rolling Stones that.
Beg your pardon?
I said, yeah, somebody should tell the Rolling Stones that.
Oh, there's a few of them out there that need to, come on, guys, now's the time. You've got to, Akadaka, absolutely. That's AC/DC, by the way. yeah, you just leave it where it is and let us, relish the fact that, you had success 40, 50 years ago, but let's just look at retiring.
So another question that I got from going through your content is that you do a lot of clapbacks. How do you do? And I've recently clapback two of yours as well. How do you decide what's worthy of a clapback?
If I find that it's funny, I think I have a really weird sense of humor, and the videos that I put out that I think are funny are what's made me laugh. So, and I think to myself, look, if you're going to be an idiot and laugh at yourself, then there's got to be someone else out there who thinks you're an idiot is going to laugh with you. And I don't mean that in a derogative term either. One thing about us Aussies is that, we tend to make fun of ourselves. We will always take the piss out of ourselves. Also, if I speak too much Australian slang, please pull me up, okay? I have a bad habit of doing that. I spoke to a guy on here for like a year before he even knew what I was talking about. So if I say words that you don't know, please just let me know, okay, and I'll explain. But we tend to take the piss out of ourselves. So if I see something that's worthy of a clap back, I will do one. I don't think I do a lot. There's a lot of other creators that do a lot of clapbacks. One thing that Clapper wants is interaction and engagement, and that's one form of engaging is clapbacking, to people's videos. I used to get a lot of people that would clap back and not actually say anything. They would just sort of like let my video play, and then that was the end of it. And it's like, no, well, I think clapbacks for interactions, where
Right.
they used to call a clapback train when you get a lot of them, which is encouraged by Clapper. Yeah. So this is a hint for anybody out there, if you're looking to grow, grab some of the big creators, have a look at their clapbacks, what they've done, or their videos, and start a train, because it's a great way to pick up other followers.
So Paul wants to know if you had any encounters with deadly reptiles or spiders.
Have any encounters? Oh, all the time. We live in Australia. And I live in a rural area. So I live in what we call town. I'm still in town, but I live in a rural area. So like across the road from me is a huge trotting track and like a race course. And behind that, it's just bushland. So yeah.
Okay. A related question. I know some of Australia has what they call spider season. Is that something around where you are, is or no?
Yeah. Are you talking about when they let their spinners out and then they just fly through the air? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that, and I mean, there are parts of Australia where there's so many spiders during so-called spider season that it discolors the ground from the webs and such, and from there being too many.
Yeah. Okay. So that's usually at springtime is when it happens, and that'll happen all over Australia. It's not, but it's not like it happens all over Australia where towns are covered in web. No, you got to look at it realistically. If there's a parkland that's not being used on a regular basis, you're going to get spiders moving into that area, but they're more scared of us than what we are of them. So they only come out for mating or looking for food. Are the spiders as big as you see on social media? Yes, they can be. We get huntsmans, which are the big long-legged spiders in our house.
Right.
We have to spray yearly, inside and out. We call it bombing. We bomb the house. Just because I'm terrified of spiders and I'm terrified of frogs, and we've got two of the biggest things in the world. And so, I hate them both. We don't have the most venomous spider where I live. That's in Sydney, and that's the funnel web spider. They live in your backyard, in the ground in the backyard. They are the most venomous here in Australia. But the second one, which is the redback spider, look, the redback spider is like this big. And I can guarantee you there's probably one living underneath our barbecue at the moment, or our back door table, or in Stephen's shoe, at the back door. That's one thing I won't do, is leave shoes outside and then overnight. I refuse to do that. I just refuse to do that. It doesn't. Actually, you're wrong, Cookie, because have you ever seen me jump? This body does not jump. So you're wrong. You're wrong.
So we mentioned it before the actual start of the interview. I would love to mix in. I want to bring it up now because mostly because he's here. I know you've met Cookie. I would love to hear how that came about, and what is he like to hang out with, because Cookie is one of those friends I got on Clapper that if I ever have a chance to meet him, I'm going to meet him.
Okay,
but
yep.
He's on the other side of the globe.
Cookie and I met through Clapper through when he was living in England. And I can guarantee you there's probably one living underneath our barbecue at the moment, or our back door table, or in Stephen's shoe. At the back door. That's one thing I won't do, is leave shoes outside and then overnight. I refuse to do that. I just refuse to do that. It doesn't. Actually, you're wrong, Cookie, because have you ever seen me jump? This body does not jump. So you're wrong. You're wrong.
So we mentioned it before the actual start of the interview. I would love to mix in. I want to bring it up now because mostly because he's here. I know you've met Cookie. I would love to hear how that came about, and what is he like to hang out with, because Cookie is one of those friends I got on Clapper that if I ever have a chance to meet him, I'm going to meet him.
Okay,
but
yep.
He's on the other side of the globe.
Cookie and I met through Clapper through when he was living in England, and he did a I'm just trying to think what video it was. I'm sure he made a gun out of a vacuum cleaner. And he also joined in with, I'm not sure if you can remember this, Tank, if you were here then, but it was Gun Week in America, and I said to my friends from the Commonwealth, because Australia is in the Commonwealth, is still a Commonwealth country. I said, with my Canadian friends and my UK friends, we went to war. We had a Nerf gun war with the Americans, and so Cookie was one of the guys that come out, and he used a vacuum cleaner as his gun, because Cookie's like, oh, I don't have anything. I said, just use your vacuum cleaner, mate. I've seen you use it before in a video as weapon. You just do that. And so after that, we started chatting and whatnot, and then Cookie, after a few years, we're quite good friends. We did a whole heap of clapbacks, not clapbacks, but collaborations together, where his monkey and my teddy bear had a long distance relationship. That was heaps of fun. We've done videos where he dressed up as Dolly Parton and I was Kenny Rogers, and we sang Islands in the Stream. so we've done our friendship has become really, really good. And then Cookie says to me one day, Kaz, I'm thinking of leaving the UK and I'm thinking of coming to either Australia or going back to New Zealand. And as a joke, I said, I'll come to Wangaratta. So 7 weeks later, he moved to my hometown. So he flew into Australia on a Friday. I jumped on the train, went down, picked him up, and that was really exciting because they bus people from the airport to the train station, like the centre of town. They bus them. So when he got off the bus, I was actually on a live, and so not just me, but the live got to see us interact with each other, and and it was fun. It was he's a good friend. He just lives around the corner from me, so I can hang out with him anytime I want to, which is great.
I don't know who I would say is the luckier there, you or Cookie, because you both are pretty amazing people. I'd love to have an opportunity to hang out with either one of you or both of you. So Paul wants to know, who on Clapper influences you?
I had a lot, like when I first started, the person that really encouraged me to do something with Clapper, because I had no intentions of becoming like a Clapper OG. I had no intentions of that. It just I just fell into it. I Redheaded Rebel used to run the love drop thing, and
She's doing that again. She's going to be doing that again, by the way.
Oh, is she? There you go. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I was like, oh, I wonder what this is, because I'd see in people's videos #love drop, and I'm like, what is this, So that took me back to Redheaded Rebels videos, and it's like, oh, I really like this, because you get to interact with people. Like people were starting to open up groups and radios and lives, right. and it was like, oh my God, what is all this? Like I was there at the beginning of everything, like when it all started happening. And so right. For me, it was like, you find your people, and you find your tribe, you find, new people that relate to your humor or whatever you want to talk about. And so I found an amazing person called Annie Abe. She's an American on here, and
she's awesome.
She is one of the funniest people, and loving and caring, and just anyway, she messaged me. She was like, like a big influence for me, and then she messaged me one day and she goes, Kaz, do you want to do a live together? And I'm like, oh my God, Annie Abe wants to do a live with me. Oh my God. I was like so nervous. And so for oh my gosh, I reckon we did Wednesday night lives for well over a year and a half, where we used to just kick back and talk shit. That's all we were doing. We were just talking shit, just, getting to know each other. People would come in and ask, because it was only a one-on-one back then. It was only, a dual live. And so people would ask, about Australia and the misconceptions that we had, especially during COVID. There was a lot of videos out there that portrayed Australia as like a Nazi country. And it wasn't, and it was like, oh no, dude, like people were asking me questions like,
it never really has been either.
No. Hey puppy, yeah, people were asking questions like, oh, is it true that the police come door to door to see whether you're vaccinated? It's like, no. Hey Shay. It's like, no, that's not true. Oh, you're not allowed you're not allowed to leave your house. Well, certain people weren't allowed to leave their homes, the sick and that. But where my husband and I lived, we lived on a border region, which meant that we could travel 12 hours up, like it took us a good 12 hours to drive, because I'm in the first quarter of the border area. So I had the rest, we had the rest. So we had a wonderful holiday during lockdown. We followed, there was rules and procedures and everything that we had to follow, and which we did. And we had a great holiday during lockdown. We had 2 really good holidays during lockdown. 1, there was no crowds. It was fantastic. 2, there was no crowds. It was fantastic. So, we got
That makes
to
sense to
see,
me.
yeah. So, like I said, there were small communities, where you had to isolate. But if you were coming back from another country and there was and there's this huge thing going on with the world, and they ask you to isolate for 2 weeks you got paid for it too, mind you. It wasn't like you were fined or anything. You got paid to stay home for 2 weeks to watch TV. And people complained about that, and I'm like, man.
So, Tom the Bomb, this is an interview show. We're not bringing other people up into boxes, so you cannot join today. Sorry. I have to tell you, Kaz, I know you used to interview people, and you were one of the people that inspired me to start interviewing people for Clapper.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Tank.
So I kind of like to know what got you started with doing interviews, and how did you choose who you wanted to interview?
Yep. Okay, so this goes back to Annie again, Annie Abe. Once Annie and I started doing regular lives and people were getting to know me, and I started to get a following, like an actual following where people were like, you hit 30, you hit these milestones, like when you first start Clapper, it's like, oh, you hit 1,000, and that's really cool. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got 1,000 people following me. And then you might hit the 10,000 mark, and then the 15, the 20, the 30, the 50, the 75. And each time it's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I got to the point where I think I was about 75,000, and I noticed that they had an influx of TikTokers come over, the first influx of TikTokers come over, and I could see people were making videos, and they're like, oh my God, how do I do this? I don't know how to work this app. Where do I find people? And so I was like, you know what? Let me use my knowledge to help others. I don't want to sit on at the top of the fence by myself. It's boring. It's boring up here by yourself. Why not extend a hand and bring people up, and sit with you? We can have a party sitting together on the fence, rather than looking down at people. So that was the inspiration of it, was to encourage people. I started doing interviews to encourage engagement, to encourage people to follow each other. We're known not to be a follow for follow app, but follow those that inspire you. Follow those that offer you a hand. Like do that sort of thing. And so that was the reasoning behind it, was that I wanted people to sit with me on the fence, on top of the fence, not for me to look down below.
Right.
And the people that I chose were those that I called them young creators, as in not as in age, but as in numbers. They were young in numbers. So if you were under 30K, because usually 30K was like your blue check point, so it was always a race to get to 30K. The first lot of blue checks that Clapper did, they gave out willingly because they needed to have momentum going. Anyway, And then it started to get harder and harder to get a blue check. So, of course, there was a lot of people that were coming up to their blue check where they wanted advice and they wanted knowledge on how you could get a blue check, how to grow to be able to get to the blue check stage as well.
Right.
So that's where the word Young Creators Month come out of. It was, hey Ash, how are you, sweetie? Yeah, so that's where it started.
Yeah,
that's where it started, was the Young Creators Month. And then, you know, like that was me opening up my platform to young creators. You know, within the hour, I was able to teach them how to become, teach them how to grow here on Clapper. You know, the do's and the don'ts, so to speak.
right.
And then after that, I created the geriatrics month, which was everybody over 30,000 that wanted to be interviewed. And what that did was open up the big creators to all the younger creators, so they could then learn off other creators. You know, you take a bit from this person, a bit from that person, a bit from that person, and you put it together, and then you create your own self on here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of the reason I started doing interviews, and the reason I choose the OGs and the well-established creators is because, and I've had several new people come to some of these interviews and ask questions. Number one, we've had several influxes, so I want to introduce the people that in part inspire me to grow and to be, you know, to get established in the communities and such. I wanted to present those people and have them there to help explain how you get to be a Clapper OG or a well-established creator. And, you know, that's why included in the questions I ask, I will ask how did you grow on Clapper? What advice do you give to new people coming in? Because we want people coming in and we want them to be a part of our communities, but we don't want it to become another TikTok while they're doing it.
Absolutely. That you are 100% correct there. That's one thing that a lot of the Clapper OGs say, is that we want Clapper to remain what Clapper was initially, and that was a platform where people could connect. It wasn't a platform for where you had to do spicy stuff, or you had to do dances to keep up with the trends. You didn't have to be trendy, and that's one thing that I loved about Clapper, was that it wasn't the Clapper's not run by thirst traps. It's run by everyday, ordinary people. You didn't have to look like a supermodel. You know, you didn't have to look like Tom Cruise. You know,
Lucky for me, that's true.
Lucky for me, that's true. You know, but you know, I looked at these big creators that were coming through. The biggest creator back then was the Black Spider-Man, and when I was like hesitant to actually ask him if he would like to do geriatrics. And it was Annie Abe that said to me, she goes, just ask him, Kaz. He's really down to earth. I've met him. Just ask him. But I was so intimidated because back then he had over 500,000, you know, like he was a big creator. And lo and behold, I asked him, he said yes. And then he turned it all around and said, hey, can I interview you? So the following week he interviewed me, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, that's so cool, you know. Okay, so how did I become? I don't know how I became Clapper famous. Let's just call it like it is, Clapper famous. I don't know how it happened. It just has happened. When I first joined Clapper, I was bigger than what I am now, and I had no hair. I had started chemo treatment. And so I started my channel bald and or shaved.
I can tell you how, from my perspective, because you're one of my favorite creators on here. You are, whether you would ever say so, you are definitely Clapper famous here. People like you and Ashmar Living. I got to interview the Black Spider-Man when we were still doing it as TMI. And yeah, he's very down to earth, very easygoing, and easy to talk to. How you came to be Clapper famous? Number one, you are very easy to talk to, very personable. You have an awesome sense of humor, and you don't take yourself too serious. All of that stuff is going to make people gravitate to you, and that's exactly what happens. You just kind of draw people in because you are who you are, genuinely and without apology. And that's something you got to respect. You say what we're not. Believe me, if this app was driven by trends, I probably wouldn't still be here. I'm not a trendy person. I am just me 100% of the time, and I don't apologize for it. That's one of the things that I love about you.
Thank you so much, Shane. I appreciate that. It's I'm a very humble person, so when people I say that they call me out, like if I'm in a live with a lot of younger creators, as in I hang out with a lot of creators that aren't looking to grow their account. They're not into that, and I love that about them. They're just happy to sit back, chill, and let's just chat. And because that's what I am too. Let's just sit back and chill and have a chat and let's just, what do you Americans say? Chew the fat? Isn't it what you say? Is it chew the fat?
One way to put it, yes.
Yeah. We would say
shoot the shit is another one.
What was that?
I said another way is say shoot the shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just kick back and talk about whatever comes into your mind.
Thanks, Cherie. So one thing that I've always found with other creators, one thing that I found that I was able to do, and that was to pretend to be something that was, we're all different. We're all different sizes. Some of us have got bloody beards. Some guys can't grow beards. Some guys are bald. There you go. Some guys are bald, some guys aren't. Some women have got big boobs, some don't. Some women are fat, some women are skinny. We're all different people. And the sooner we accept ourselves, that is where we're able to accept others as well too. Because you've got to
wait a minute, Cookie. Are you telling me Clapper has filters? That'd be news to me. I never believed in using filter. No amount of filter is going to make me, look like a 30-year-old well-cut hunk. So I don't care. I am who I am. Take me or leave me. I don't care. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And when you meet people for real in real life, you kind of go, oh. Because I've seen it so many times. I have seen it, even just on this app where they go off and they have a big Clapper meetup, and then you hear the whispers afterwards. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't think that. Geez, she uses a skinny filter on her because she's not really that skinny.
You know what Kaz, you know what I've heard from people after meeting me in person that know me from Clapper? I've been told you're just like you were on Clapper.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
That's a compliment to me. And I want to comment on what Ashmar Living just said. Ashmar, you're exactly right. In the end, we're all a lot more alike than we think. Even people on opposite ends of the political spectrum, they still agree on 80 to 85% of things. It's that little differences that they focus on. At the end of the day, we are a lot more alike than we think. So you're absolutely right, Ashmar, and thank you for pointing that out. A couple more things I wanted to ask you about, Kaz. Number one, your word of the day. I have actually looked up some of those, because you'll say the word of the day and then you'll say, have a nice day.
I got the word that I use a lot, and it's Aussie slang, and it's a way for me to say goodbye. And I always say the word hooroo. it is just a way to say goodbye here in Australia. And it was one of the very first videos that I did as an Australian. Like I did a series of videos of how to speak Australian, and the very first one was hooroo, and it's spelled HOO-ROO, hooroo, and people were like, oh, what does it mean? And it's like, oh, it's a way to say goodbye. You say hooroo, hooroo, and my husband says to me, you don't say that, and I go, oh, I do. You just don't realize that we actually say these things. And it wasn't until when I made a friend on here, and his name's Mike. Unfortunately, Mike's in hospital at the moment. He's not very well, so he's not here. But he was the one that I talked about earlier with the Aussie slang, and that was, if I speak, I just speak how I speak. I use Aussie lingo all the time. And it wasn't until he actually said to me, oh my Kaz, I don't know what you've been saying this word for like 12 months, and I don't know what this word is. And I'm like, oh, what is it? What word is it? Because I'm trying to think what word it is. And it was the word bloke, BLOKE. Do you know what a bloke is?
Yeah, I would be one.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he didn't know. He had no idea what a bloke was, because I'm like, oh gosh, you're a good bloke, Oh, I saw this bloke the other day, and I'm like, oh, you use them so much that you don't realize that you're actually using them. And so it was like, I said to my husband, you wait, you just stop and listen to how people say goodbye. And of course his mum says it, everybody says it, goes, oh, you're right, people switch. I don't realize how much. It's the same as using the C word. It's a common word in Australia, so much so that I had to stop and slow my speaking down, because in real life I have got what they call is a sailor's mouth. I swear
I would.
Truth.
That would be a good time to point out I was an American sailor, so I get that.
So yeah, and I swear, like, it is common for people to swear in Australia. The C word isn't anything that's considered offensive. Here, the more how would you say it? The more shit you give your friends, the closer you are. So, I mean, like Cherie, for instance, Sheza01, Cherie and I have known each other since we were 15. She comes from my area, and she come onto the app through another friend of ours. Anyway, for her and I to sit down and have a conversation, it's like FC, and people just don't blink. It's just one of those things that we do. It's so word of the day. I could say the word of the day is starting with the letter C, but let's go with hooroo instead.
Those are some of my favorite videos that you do, and it's not just the Australian slang, for want of a better way. There are some things that they come out of to find out what they mean. If you Google them, you find out the definition out of the Urban Dictionary, and quite surprising sometimes what they actually mean. But I get a kick out of those. I don't look them all up. Some of them I already know them, but I have looked up some of them too. And you just gotta. I just appreciate the humor and putting that out there. All right, Tom the Bomb. That's the second time you've asked, so you're gone. Excuse me for that, but I just don't. I don't. She said it the first time, so I gave her the, polite refusal. Why I wasn't bringing anybody up, but and what was that, Ashmar? I like to see a word I used it sometimes when my Latina fire comes out. I bet. We are drawing short of time now. We're getting to the end of the video, or to the end of the interview, but I really want to spend a little time with your cooking with Kaz,
Yep.
the content you do for that. I'm a big guy. Obviously, I love to eat. So I really enjoy and everybody, all of my friends that do cooking videos, like Malcolm 2.0, whom I interviewed 2 weeks ago. He does cooking videos because he's a foodie. He likes to cook. I love your cooking with Kaz videos. What I wanted to know is, are there particular things that you do that you feel like are good enough to put on those, or are they things that are your favorites to prepare? How do you decide what's good enough for a video?
Okay. Well, firstly, when I first started doing Clapper, I had not really intended it to be a cooking thing. I just accidentally fell into it, and it was because, again, people are asking me, what's your favorite food? What do Australians eat? And so it kind of started with the word damper. Damper is a bread that's made in a camp oven, but you can make it in your oven normally as well.
Right.
But and so I did a live with making this bread, and then someone asked me, oh, are you a chef? And I'm like, yeah, I am a chef, actually. I am a chef. And so they're like, oh, can you show us some more cooking videos? So I was just cooking what we were eating. That's all. I was just video recording what we were eating. That's it. I don't have a favorite food because we're so multicultural here in Australia. I can't tell you what's my favorite food because I love all food.
How about here for a specific question? What is your favorite food that is going to be more difficult to find outside of Australia? What's your favorite food that's native to Australians that isn't really popular outside of Australia?
Probably kangaroo. We're the only nation, the only country in the world that eat its coat of arms. On our coat of arms, we've got a emu and we've got a kangaroo, and we eat both of those. And the reason why the emu and the kangaroo are on our coat of arms is because they are the only 2 animals in Australia that can't walk backwards. So it just shows progress. You're only moving forward, and that's the idea of the Australian coat of arms, is that we're moving.
I like that. I do like that symbology. They're always moving forward. That's really, really, really smart to me. Welcome in, Cable. You come in at the end of my interview with AussieKazz, but you have a few minutes. If you have a question you'd like to ask Kaz, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer.
I just wanted to finish off with the cooking videos, and the reason why I started off doing cooking videos was, one, we were all stuck at home, and people were limited for being able to go out and buy certain foods, etc. So because we were in lockdown and whatnot. And restaurants were closed and that. And so I wanted to show people that you could still have restaurant quality meals at home for an affordable price without having to have this huge knowledge or this huge kitchen full of gadgets. You can still have simple foods but upmarket them, and for no extra quality, extra pricing, if that makes sense. So I wanted to show people that you can eat well, you can eat fresh. You don't have to be an expert in how to cook. You don't have to have knife skills or anything like that to be able to be able to cook the meals that I was cooking. So it was simplicity, cheap, and easy to do, and that was the idea of behind the cooking with Kaz videos.
Absolutely. My inspiration for what you said, I was raised by an Italian mother. My mom's half of my family, that part of my heritage is Italian. And my mother's 80 years old. And to my knowledge, she's never stepped foot in an Italian restaurant, because her way of thinking is, if she goes to an Italian restaurant, it's not going to be as good, even if the people that own it are Italian, because you have to, when you run a restaurant, your food has to be palatable to the biggest variety of people. So, her perspective on it is, why go to an Italian restaurant? I make better at home already. And that's what I grew up on. So I do get that. Danny, which is Peterbilt, wants to know, how tender is kangaroo meat?
Well, it depends on how you cook it, Peter. Again, it's no different to cow, beef. If you cook it low and slow, very, very tender. Hard and fast, it can be tender too, especially if it depends on how you like it cooked.
Is there a meat that you can equate the flavor to?
No. No. It's simple. No. Cable, maybe you could answer that as well too. Maybe it has its own flavor. It's got hardly any fat in it, so it's very, very good for you to eat because of the very less fat content. But in saying that, the less fat content means that you got to be careful how you cook it. So
exactly, I was going to say that. I'm not a chef, but I know that when it comes to cooking meat, the leaner it is, the more careful you have to be cooking it, so you don't overcook it, make it tough.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a minute, Kaz, to just preview next week. This time next week, I will be interviewing Handy Mandy.
Oh my gosh, she is the funniest lady ever. And
a funny story about her, because I've been following Handy Mandy for over 3 years, and I went into one of her lives last year, and I was just, because I've only grown my account in the last year and a half. First 2 years on here, I didn't grow. I just came in, I did lives and radios and such. And I do have friends that I've been friends with all along, but I went into her live and we got to talking. She's like, Tank, how could we both have been on the same app for the same length of time and not know each other? I said, well, Mandy, I've been following you since 2021. And yes, she has a fabulous sense of humor. And if those of you that don't know, she's got a collab group going now. It's going to be, they want to do like a Clapper series, play for humor. And there's quite a few really, really talented people in this. How I'm included, I don't know, but I got invited to join this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
This is the reason why we do what we do, Tank. It's because it's to allow the little person to come in, mix with the big people, and that's what I love about Clapper. Is that the bigger creators, the ones that have got the big following, they're the ones that say, "Come here, let me help you grow," because it's lonely sitting at the top, and who wants to sit at the top by yourself, So encourage. Right. I encourage people to get out there, put yourself out there, and go and hang out with these big creators. Go and hang out with them and see what they're doing. Listen to what they're doing. Listen to the advice that they give you. That's another thing too. Sorry. And I just want to quickly answer Cookie's question. Witchetty grubs. A witchetty grub is a grub about that big, about that fat, that it will grow into a moth, a really big moth, and Aboriginal people eat them. They dig them out of the tree, or they dig them out of just underneath where the roots are of the tree, and they are eaten usually raw, so alive, straight down the gullet. They're tough on the outside, squishy on the inside. They've got like a bitter flavour to them, but if you cook them, they kind of have like a nutty flavour. So there we go.
One thing that I still find difficult, I got told in a live recently that I was famous on Clapper, and I don't see it. I never did. But if you look at the numbers of followers, I do have a lot of followers. I've been on the app for almost 5 years. Been around a while, and I've got some amazing friends that have been here. People like Rooster Demo Daddy,
Rooster
Yellow Cake, Like I said, Handy Mandy's another one I've been friends with for a long time. But to me, I am a very humble, broken down. Can I say broken down? I've been on disability for over almost 25 years. So I'm just a humble, broken down old guy, and I like to do the things I like to do. I love these interviews because I get to meet and talk to some amazing people like you and Handy Mandy. I've interviewed this old man, Jay Dubs, and a lot of the art community. And I've got some amazing interviews coming up, and this is a thrill for me every week. It's just an absolute thrill. You don't know how much I've been looking forward, for example, to this very interview, Kaz.
Thank you so much, Tank. I really appreciate it. I honestly do. And before we do go, I want to thank everybody in the comment section, those that have come in, and I appreciate the person that's recording this because it's a big deal. I know it's a big deal because I've done these before where you've had to ask somebody else to record, and sometimes they don't record what you want or what you need. Many times I've gone, oh. So thank you so very much for that. I really appreciate it.
Well, and my friends, it has been an hour. Believe me, I would love just to sit and talk, shoot the shit with you anytime. That's the one thing I hate most about. I love it, but I hate it because you're on the other side of the planet. So having time when we're both awake and can do this, that can be kind of tricky to arrange sometimes. You know, I do have a few friends that are from your part of the world. You, Cookie, Matt Bughead is another one.
Yep.
And you're all amazing, and it's an honor to know you. My friends, I do this every Sunday at 3:00 Central Standard Time. Please, if you have the opportunity, come. It's Handy Mandy next week, and Sean Hintz the week after that. And like I said, I get the good fortune of interviewing amazing people. Today, my guest has been AussieKazz. Kaz, this has been a thrill. This will be available on my YouTube channel on Wednesday. So for those, and for any of your friends that wanted to be here but couldn't for whatever reason, just direct them to my YouTube channel on Wednesday and they'll be able to see the entire interview.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And as we say in Australia, hooroo.
Have a wonderful day, Kaz. I'll see you in the Clapper streets. Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.